Voyager's Salamander episode was a disaster, says Star Trek writer, Star Trek Voyager writer Brannon Braga called the episode Threshold a disaster for a very specific reason. Threshold was episode 15 of Voyager Season 2 and is to date one of the most controversial episodes in the Star Trek timeline. The episode revolved around Tom Paris, Robert Duncan McNeil, on a mission to break the Warp 10 speed barrier, something that had been established in Star Trek The Next Generation. However, when Paris succeeded in surpassing Warp 10, he began mutating into a salamander-like creature that kidnapped Captain Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, and mated with her on an alien planet. Although the premise of Threshold held promise, and Paris's devolution after breaking Warp 10 was interesting in theory, the episode fell apart in its final arc. The revelation that both Paris and Janeway had turned into salamanders, and Janeway had given birth to 3 babies in the time it took Voyager's cast of characters to locate them, caused Threshold to become too strange for critics and audiences alike. Brannon Braga, the episode's writer, had often cited Threshold as one of his worst outings for some particular reasons. Brannon Braga's big mistake turned Star Trek Voyager's Salamander episode into a disaster in Captain's Log Supplemental, The Unauthorized Guide to the New Trek Voyages by Edward Gross and Mark A. Altman. Braga discussed the writing of Threshold and revealed that he had originally intended for the episode's ending to be a little more high concept. Braga stated that he had wanted to center the discussion of evolution as the episode's focal point, but had eventually taken this idea out in rewrites. However, he believed unequivocally that Threshold suffered because of this decision. Read Braga's full quote below. Braga is correct in stating that Threshold was very much a classic Star Trek story. In fact, it was not even the first Star Trek episode to deal with human de-evolution. The Star Trek TNG Season 7 episode Genesis, which saw the USS Enterprise D crew devolve due to a botched medical treatment, had a very similar concept at its core. However, Threshold, choosing to center Paris and Janeway's strange salamander affair rather than keeping it focused on the evolution premise, was where things ultimately fell apart. Adhering to Braga's original story plan might have made Threshold much less controversial.